What's going on, guys? Today is Friday, March 20th, day 5 of the coronavirus quarantine, and I've decided that I'm going on an adventure. You see, those that have worked with me or for me long enough know that I am a big fan of what I call adventure time. Now, adventure time is something that I normally do while I'm traveling for work. You know, when you travel for work, you're in another country or in another state and you're sitting in your hotel room and you're bored out of your mind and all you want to do is just get out. I started adventure time about 10 years ago. It was in Columbus, Ohio, and I went to a Waffle House at 2 o'clock in the morning. And honest to God, it was one of the most fun nights of my life. What ended up happening was I was in a sing-along with about 25 other 2 o'clock in the morning Waffle House people singing country songs. It was one of the funniest things, one of the funniest nights I can remember. Aside from that, another time when I went on adventure time was in Las Vegas. Again, a lot of times, usually late at night. I've been stuck in the hotel all day. And I went with 3 of my co-workers, 2 of my employees. We went over to a McDonald's at about midnight. The McDonald's was closed right at the top of the strip. And we called an Uber to drive us through the drive-thru and paid him in cheeseburgers. That's kind of the crux of adventure time. So why adventure time today? Today I wanted to create a day in the life of a small business owner video, with the point of the video being focused on the coronavirus's effect on business and especially on small business. See, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go take a bike ride, say hi to my bike, in Center City, Philadelphia, the greatest city on the planet. And I'm going to take a look at how many businesses are closed, how many are open, are there signs on the doors. I want to just take a look at what's going on, and then I want to talk about, on the other side of this, how this is affecting small business. All right, here's the real test. We're about to cross the bridge into Philly. We're going to see what the traffic's like. So, made it, and now I'm gonna ride through just initial thoughts and reactions. It's pretty dead here. I mean, look, this is South Street I'm riding down right now. Normally South Street is bustling. You can't drive a car down South Street. Check it out. Can anybody guess where I am right now? That's right, here in Philadelphia, that is Independence Hall. And I'm standing in front of this monument to US government to point out the fact that governors all across the country are shutting down non-essential businesses in order to help decrease the spread of the coronavirus. And I 100% get it and understand why you're doing it. But we're only doing about half of what would probably be necessary to get rid of the coronavirus. Behind me is Jewelers Row. No one's buying diamonds today. Now this happens to be my favorite spot in the city. If you can see behind me, you've got City Hall in the back. It's kind of hard because of the sunlight on it. But while there are cars, there are so many more businesses closed than there are open. And The other thing to note is places like Wawa, Dunkin' Donuts, they're open, but local coffee shops are not. And I have a goal of finding and shopping from a local coffee house where we continue to do some homework on how this is affecting small business. But I can tell you right now, businesses everywhere, employees everywhere, people are being affected by the coronavirus. If you are a Philadelphia street performer, get your butt down to Rittenhouse Square, because it is the only place in Philly right now that has any kind of life going on inside of it. There are a good amount of people. Granted, some still want the social distancing, but this is the bumping place, Rittenhouse Square. Well, thanks Philly for a fun ride. The highs were that it was the easiest ride to the city I've ever had. I mean, honestly, there wasn't a spot I couldn't go to, and I wish I had another hour to just kind of cruise through the city. The low was I never found a local coffee shop. I went by all the ones I knew and tried to find ones I didn't know. Every single one of them said closed due to coronavirus. It's just a shame. So I'm back in the office now. Happy to be back from my awesome bike ride this morning in Philadelphia, and I've started to do some research as to what's happening with small businesses. In one of the NPR articles that I've read during this time period, one of them is interviewing a massage and spa business. Now, in this case, this gentleman says that today, as of, what was that day? Today, as of March 18th, we have 0 clients. We have 13 full-time W-2 employees, and I'm trying to figure out what I could do to help keep the business and all of our heads above water during this time. This is my entire life's work, and I've been in business and really successful for going on 15 years now. We don't understand what a shutdown of 2 weeks is going to do to our economy, but one thing we know is it's not going to have a great effect. So many small businesses and their employees all over the country are going to be heavily affected by the coronavirus. Now, the good news is there are other articles that point out, like this one from Forbes, that there's actually a lot of funding coming through the pipeline. For example, the U.S. Small Business Administration is offering up to $2 million in economic injury disaster loans for small businesses. State and local governments, if you go down, they're all over the country. There are state and local governments that are stepping in to help small businesses that are being heavily affected by the coronavirus. The important thing to remember here is that while many businesses do have the ability to work from home, you do have the ability to work remotely, or at least aspects of your business can work remotely, there are still many businesses that cannot. For example, a restaurant. While granted, they can have their takeout and delivery service still active, their waiters, waitresses, and dine-in opportunity is all flat. So waiters and waitresses stuck home, doing nothing, not getting paid. I saw one sign in Philadelphia on a restaurant that said that they're offering free meals to their wait staff. They could come in and actually get a free meal because they know that they're going to be struggling. No tips means no money. These people are going to be hurting. I interviewed a few friends of mine that all own businesses. Some of them are friends and some of them are clients. And what I want to do is I actually want to create a graph to show you the effect on their business. What we have here is a simple XY axis. On this side is going to be the effect from 0 or no effect up to a major or 10 effect. And down here is the business type. So along the business type Y-axis here, we have financial, and we're going to take a look at sales, employee effect, and future all the way across. That's going to be the 3 things that we are going to compare and contrast. One of my friends is the owner of a financial consulting business. And so as I talked with him, he had mentioned that right now, currently sales, he puts at an 8. Basically, I'm paraphrasing his words. He's got a lot of effect on his current sales. The only real thing that's happening right now is clients who are trying to sell off or trying to move their stuff and so on and so forth, which he doesn't necessarily make money on. but he's trying to show his service and how he could step up and help people. His employee effect, he's the only employee. So he's at a 1. No, he's affected, don't get me wrong, but he's also has savings, and obviously being a financial consultant, he knows what he's doing from the perspective of managing his money. But his future, when I talked to him about it, he actually only put his future around a 2 as far as the effect of the coronavirus. Now, the main reason why that was the case is because he looks at this as an opportunity to show his level of service in order to then get more work down the line. But if you look at his sales effect, if he had employees, this would directly affect this. Now, the second person I talked to was a contractor, and it was actually 2 contractors, both getting very different results. Now, first and foremost, initially their sales averaged about halfway as far as concern goes. However, they're both getting kind of creative as to how they're doing things. So right now we're only putting their sales effect at a 3. And I'll explain why. Because they both took a look at their business and said, hey, let's take all of these upcoming repair jobs where we're going to be on site with a homeowner. And instead of taking the time to be on site with that homeowner, we will switch them to later on, and we'll focus on these empty house projects where we're doing a house flip and no one's on site. Now, initially for that, the employee effect would be very little, but let's say they're not allowed on somebody's property, or let's say New Jersey and Pennsylvania, which Pennsylvania already has, goes into full quarantine mode. If that is the case, then their employees are going to be out, and they're going to be exceptionally upset because they're going to have to more than likely take paid time off, because again, they are a small local business. So we are going to put the employee effect at a 9, major employee effect. And in that industry, if you have an employee effect of a 9, you're also worried greatly about your future, because that's when employees start looking for other places to go and get work from. So they're looking at the future and saying, okay, we're going to be okay in the long run, but because of the employee effect, we're a little worried. Let's put it halfway. So the next person I talked to was an insurance contractor. So you see insurance contractor, they do insurance restoration work. Now, initially sales had tanked. However, that changed. Their sales effect is at a 1 right now. And the reason why is because they got very clever. They have all the cleaning chemicals to clean the coronavirus. So their sales effect is only a 1 because they're now making really great progress on that, keeping their employees in, and they're also considered an emergency company, so they're allowed to stay open. So their employee effect, ironically, is higher than you think it's going to be. They're at about an 8 right now. And the reason that they're at an 8 and why they're having issues with employees is because as the rest of the world shuts down, their employees still have to work. Their employees are nervous about getting the coronavirus while on site, so on and so forth. As far as their future concern, they're not that worried. They're putting themselves at a 2. They're more worried right now about employees jumping ship out of fear of catching the coronavirus while on site. The last one I talked to personally was a law firm. They are at a 10 of a sales effect. Pennsylvania shut down all courts, and when that happened, all of their money stopped. You're not making money as a lawyer if you're not going to court. Employee effect was at a 5. Half of their employees were able to work from home. Half of their employees could not. So they were right there. Now the employees are unhappy. Future-wise, they have their concerns, but they also know on the post side of this, those cases are just going to resume and they're going to be okay. So they only put themselves at a 3. The important thing to note here, this is only week 1. This is only the first week in the US of people being more aggressively quarantined. You're going to have a ton of large corporations and companies that are going to be able to weather this storm. Companies like Amazon and Facebook and Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts, they're going to be able to pay their employees throughout the whole entire time. But then you're going to have all of these local small businesses that are less than, well, I think it's 500 employees is the Small Business Association ruling on what is a small business. But some of these are less than 10 employees. So you have these small businesses that right now, their sales are going to be affected, and they're really only thinking about this week. No one's really thinking how long this is going to last for. And yet I read an article this morning that we could have an effect from the coronavirus of 18 months. 18 months. That will be crazy. So all that to be said, here's something that I want to say right now. If you are a small business owner and you're stressing out and you're sitting at your house and you're worried about what's going to happen, it's justified. You should worry. This is your livelihood. This is what you've created. But I want to give you a little bit of hope. And I want to plant a bug in your head. How can you work creatively in order to keep your business afloat, moving forward, and try not to lose too much steam? I one time, my all-time favorite, and if he ever watches this, I hope he reaches out to me. Andy Andrews is my all-time favorite motivational speaker. And if you've never had the honor of going and listening to an Andy Andrews talk, you could go on YouTube and you can find a ton of them, but he has this ability to completely captivate you from the first second he says a word. And I was once at a small business event. It was for contractors, and these contractors were having a very bad year in business. And he got up and basically talked about the BP oil spill. And he started off by pointing out when the BP oil spill happened, it had a massive economical effect on the entire Gulf Coast area because so much of the Gulf Coast is dependent upon fishing and marine life and all things. Because so much of the Gulf Coast is dependent upon the fishing industry. And what he said was that fishermen were taking out life insurance policies and they were killing themselves because business had gotten so terrible and times had gotten so bad that they needed to provide for their families. And that was the only way they could think of how to do it. What a sad state of affairs. On the flip side of that, he talked about how there were people and companies that thrived during this time. And it has become, I build a mantra off of this. This is a personal business mantra of my own, of Kevin Gallagher, and that is creativity will always overcome adversity. He pointed out that these fishermen who had boats got together and said, let's start offering tours of the oil spill. Think about this for a second. A fisherman taking people out in his boat and having them look at oil and water. And they charged so much for this that they actually made more doing this service than they did fishing. Giving people tours of the oil spill made them more money than fishing. Shops in town closed down, sprayed thanks BP. But the shops that stayed open and created t-shirts and sold them online had phenomenal years in business. And the reason why is because those people saw a problem, thought creatively, and created a solution. You can do this. Your small business can do the exact same thing. Let's just throw a couple out there. Let's say you're a doctor's office. Three or four employees, front desk person, some assistants, and then a couple of doctors. You could do online triage. Restaurants, obviously, I know there's still going to be a massive effect, but delivery and pickup, phenomenal ways to continue making money. Health and fitness, gyms, take your in-house staff, teach them how to walk people through a training session and do personal training in people's houses if they would like it done that way. I know it's social distancing, but they don't have to touch. But the whole reason gyms are closed is because they don't want people of 20 more congregating in one spot. The bottom line is, if you work creatively today, your future fear can go away because you're doing what you can to continue to
grow your business despite the fact you're in the situation you're in. So, today's day in the life of a small business owner, the lesson learned, creativity overcomes adversity. I want you all to be safe out there. If you're a small business, remember, be small, think big, otherwise guys, stay safe.